I'd carried a torch for my older brother's friend, Liam, for years. A secret yearning I'd held onto for so long it felt like a part of me. But then, someone asked him once, when his guard was down with drink, had he ever truly fallen for someone? He'd slurred my brother Ethan's name. The limited edition Stitch figure I'd painstakingly acquired, the one I'd planned to give him when I finally confessed my feelings, showed up pinned to my brother's jacket the very next day. My courage, along with my hopes, had deflated instantly. 6 months into what I hesitantly called a relationship, my boyfriend, Alex, dumped me. The real kicker? Less than 30 minutes after the breakup call, a friend texted me a picture. It was Alex, cozying up with some girl in a downtown coffee shop, practically attached at the lip. Alex, the guy who cheated, then had the gall to break up with me. But breaking up wasn't enough for him. His next move was pure sleaze. Despite being the one who strayed, he actually texted, asking if I wanted to meet him. At a hotel. His excuse? A final farewell, a chance to take one last good look before we went our separate ways, dust to dust, as he so poetically put it. The bile rose in my throat. His words dripped with false sentimentality, but his intentions were blindingly obvious. I hadn't even let him touch me properly in the 6 months we were supposedly together. Did he seriously think I'd suddenly agree to a cheap, meaningless hookup now that it was over? He was either delusional or deliberately trying to disgust me. Normally, a text like that would warrant an immediate block and delete. But the sheer audacity of it ignited a fury I couldn't just swallow. After stewing for a while, I picked up the phone and called my brother, Ethan. "What's up, sis?" Ethan's booming voice answered, nearly drowned out by the thumping bass of background music. Definitely a bar. He was the classic lovable rogue, terrified of his wife, Chloe, yet always sneaking out for drinks with his buddies. No time for small talk. I got straight to the point. "Ethan, I need to borrow Liam for a bit." "Borrow him?" A lecherous chuckle crackled through the line. "Sure thing. Just use him sparingly, all right?" Use him? Was my brother ever serious? Before I could retort, the phone was passed and the background noise softened considerably. A calm, magnetic male voice, smooth and low, came through the line. "Sophia? Is everything okay?" Liam. That voice sent a familiar shiver down my spine. Liam O'Connell. The solitary stream of integrity amidst my brother's rowdy pack of friends. Not only devastatingly handsome, but genuinely capable, he could handle himself in any situation. My resolve hardened. "Liam," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need a huge favor. Can you pretend to be my boyfriend for a little while?" Silence stretched on the other end. Realizing how that might sound, I quickly clarified, "My ex, Alex, just broke up with me, after cheating, by the way, and now he's asking me to meet him at a hotel. I'm furious and honestly a little bit vindictive. I want you to come with me, pretend we're together, just to wipe that smug look off his face." A pause, then a low, warm chuckle. "All right, Sophia. Send me the time and place." Liam. "I don't think I have your WeChat." I mumbled, feeling slightly pathetic. Liam was notoriously private, the definition of a high mountain flower, as they said, cool, reserved, rarely involved in gossip, except for the endless jokes about his bromance with my brother. "Don't you?" He sounded amused. "Check again." "I just sent you something." Just as he spoke, my phone buzzed. A new WeChat message notification popped up. It was an incredibly embarrassing sticker of me, probably taken by Ethan last winter. I was bundled in an old, bright red high school jacket, squatting awkwardly in the snow, setting off a firecracker with an idiotic grin plastered across my face, cheeks ruddy from the cold. I looked like a village simpleton. My face burned. I racked my brain but couldn't recall adding Liam on WeChat. The profile picture was just a black square, the username a string of letters. We'd apparently been contacts for months without exchanging a single word. I hadn't even added a nickname. Maybe I just accepted a random request months ago and forgotten all about it? Shaking my head, I didn't dwell on it. I forwarded Alex's location pin to Liam, adding a pleading emoji sticker. 8 p.m. tonight, Liam. Please? Okay. Just one word, yet somehow I could perfectly picture the indulgent smile that likely accompanied it. At 7:30, Liam pulled up in his sleek black SUV. We met outside, a silent agreement passing between us, and headed straight for the designated hotel. On the drive over, my mind raced, playing out every possible scenario. But nothing could have prepared me for the reality. Alex, apparently having lost his mind entirely, answered the door wearing nothing but a pair of boxer shorts. When the door first opened a crack, Alex cautiously peered out, asking who it was. Hearing my voice, he swung it open wider, a sheepish grin already forming. I wondered at his uncharacteristic modesty until I pushed the door fully open and saw him positioned strategically behind it, clad only in his underwear. My eyes did a quick, involuntary scan. TSK, not much to look at, I thought dryly. Alex started babbling some excuse about the room being too hot and my knock catching him off guard before he could dress. His smile faltered, then vanished completely when he saw Liam step into the room beside me, my arm firmly linked through his. Alex pointed a trembling finger at Liam, momentarily speechless. My boyfriend, I said, injecting a light, dismissive laugh into my voice, tightening my grip on Liam's arm. To my surprise, Alex actually recognized him, nearly blowing our cover. He hastily grabbed a jacket slung over a chair and tied it around his waist. Isn't he your brother's friend? He sputtered, gesturing wildly at Liam. Sophia, we broke up yesterday. You two hooked up already. My mind scrambled for a second. Right, I'd dragged Alex along to one of Ethan's gatherings once, and Liam must have been there. Impressive memory for someone so sleazy. Just as I was formulating a response, Liam smoothly extracted his arm from my grasp, only to slide it firmly around my shoulders. I was wearing a thin-strapped sundress today, and his large hand felt warm, almost scorching, against my bare skin. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through me, grounding me. Then, Liam's voice, low and steady, resonated above me. I've been interested in Sophia for a long time. Letting a girl like this go? Thanks for the opportunity. His words hung in the air. I snuck a glance at Alex. His face was a fascinating picture of shock, anger, and bruised ego. He opened his mouth, then closed it, lips pressed into a thin line. Finally, he seemed to deflate, mumbling a reluctant, well, congratulations, I guess. Even though I hadn't said much, seeing Alex so thoroughly shut down was incredibly satisfying. Just as I was about to steer Liam towards a triumphant exit, he gently patted my shoulder. Leaning down, his breath warm against my ear, he whispered, "Wait here a second." Before I could react, he propelled Alex back into the room. A word, he stated calmly, then shut the door with a decisive click. Almost immediately, a series of muffled thuds and a pained yelp echoed from within. Liam, it seemed, wasn't just going to play the part, he was adding his own forceful punctuation. A minute later, the door opened. "Let's go," Liam said, his voice back to its usual calm tone. He even pulled the door closed behind him. I risked a peek inside. Alex was crumpled against the far wall, looking decidedly worse for wear. On the way out, stuck at a red light, Liam reached into the back seat and produced a U-shaped neck pillow, handing it to me. "We're heading to that bar Ethan and I frequent," he explained. "It's a bit of a drive. Your neck gets stiff easily, remember? Use this." I took it, glancing down. It was blue, adorned with a familiar, slightly faded stitch pattern. My favorite character back in high school. My thumb traced Stitch's grinning face. "Liam," I said softly, Stitch was my high school obsession. "I'm kind of grown up now." Liam seemed to pause, his grip tightening slightly on the steering wheel. "Oh, right. Well, what do you like now? I can get you a new one." "No, it's okay," I murmured, studying Stitch's face. I squeezed the plush material, a small, genuine smile touching my lips. I loved him so much back then, and looking at him now, I guess I still kind of do. I slipped the pillow around my neck. "Thanks, Liam." Beside me, I heard his soft chuckle. "Don't mention it." Truthfully, I had two secrets buried deep in my heart. One, I was hopelessly in love with my brother's friend, Liam O'Connell. Had been for years. A truth I never dared voice. The other secret, I knew who Liam, the famously reserved, high-mountain flower, was secretly in love with. And it was someone I knew intimately. Of course, Liam had never told me directly. It was all pieced together from years of tiny, heart-wrenching clues. Like that Stitch phase in high school. My world was plastered with him. Figures, stickers, keychains. Once, I'd lucked into a rare, limited edition Stitch blind box. Figure. I adored it. And in a moment of hopeful bravery, I gave it to Liam for his birthday. But the next day, there it was, dangling from Ethan's backpack zipper. Like that time Liam got truly drunk. It was at a party, playing truth or dare. He lost and chose truth. Someone asked him, the unattainable flower, if he'd ever actually had feelings for anyone. Through the alcoholic haze, he mumbled a single name. Ethan. Ethan. My brother's name. The table went silent for a beat, then everyone quickly, awkwardly, laughed it off and changed the subject. Or like that one birthday of Liam's. After blowing out the candles, everyone drunkenly pressed him about his wish. He hesitated, his gaze flickering towards my brother, before saying lightly, just a random wish. Hope Ethan and I stay friends forever, I guess. But the look in his eyes, it was filled with a profound, unspoken sadness. I remembered all these moments with painful clarity. Because that day, the day after I gave him the stitch figure, the day it appeared on Ethan's bag, that was the day I had planned to finally tell Liam how I felt. JNS bar. It was dimly lit, the air thick with the thrumming bass of music. Liam led me to a booth, ordering a couple of cocktails that weren't too potent. The music pulsed around us. Liam leaned close, his voice warm against my ear. Hang tight. Your brother will be here soon. I nodded. What's he doing? Liam chuckled softly. Finishing the dishes at home. Yes. Ethan's standard pre-outing ritual, appease Queen Chloe with domestic chores to ensure a guilt-free night out. Honestly, Ethan never even looked at other women in bars. He just genuinely loved the atmosphere and a good drink. That's probably why Chloe, despite his playful nature, mostly turned a blind eye. While we waited, Liam and I started on our drinks. This wasn't my first time in a bar, but it was the first time I'd come with Liam. He was usually more protective than Ethan, strictly forbidding me from places like this. His suggesting it tonight had surprised me. 2 drinks in, I rested my chin on my hand, stealing glances at him. He really was unfairly handsome. Especially now, bathed in the shifting, multicolored lights, the sharp angles of his face softened slightly, making his eyes seem even deeper, more intense. I lingered a moment too long. As I pulled my gaze away, his head turned, and our eyes met. A jolt went through me, heat rising in my cheeks. After a beat, Liam leaned in again, lowering his voice. Tonight's an exception because you're upset. But really, Sophia, you shouldn't come to places like this often. He paused, adding pointedly, especially not alone with guys. Maybe it was the alcohol loosening my tongue. What about you, Liam? The words slipped out before I could stop them. He blinked, then a small smile played on his lips. I'm the exception. Why? I clinked my glass against his, managing a weak laugh at his confidence. Liam laughed too, raising his glass. He downed the remaining contents in one smooth motion. His gaze drifted away for a moment, his voice sounding slightly distant over the music. Because I've been friends with your brother for years. I wouldn't hurt you. Ethan again. Always Ethan. In the dim light, Liam didn't seem to notice how my smile stiffened, felt brittle around the edges. After a moment, I forced a light laugh and nodded. Right. Of course. Maybe it was my mood, but despite my usual tolerance, the alcohol hit me fast tonight. Before I'd even finished my second drink, my face felt flushed, and the room had started a slow, gentle tilt. Liam, however, remained infuriatingly composed. Not a hint of intoxication, his eyes still clear and steady. He was famously able to hold his liquor. That one time he'd uttered Ethan's name. Perhaps that was the only time I'd ever seen him truly lose control. I couldn't look at him. Not directly. A few seconds of eye contact, and the familiar ache returned. Loving someone for so long, someone so unattainable, and having him sit right beside you, it was a complicated, bittersweet torture. Honestly, ever since he'd given that stitch figure to Ethan, I'd resolved to bury my feelings deep, lock them away. After graduating high school, I'd deliberately avoided seeing him all summer, dedicating those months to the painful process of trying to forget. Then college started, and I met Alex. He wasn't dazzling like Liam, didn't have legions of girls fawning over him. He seemed safe, manageable, someone I thought perhaps I could actually hold on to. He pursued me for 2 months. I turned him down repeatedly, admitting honestly that my heart was still caught on someone else, that I couldn't seem to fully let go. But Alex hadn't cared. The best way to get over someone, he'd argued with insistent logic, is to start something new. Sophia, just give us a try. How will you know if we're not right if you don't even try? His persistence wore me down. I agreed. During those 6 months with Alex, I carefully constructed a distance from Liam. Avoided gatherings where he might be. The only time we saw each other was unavoidable, Ethan's birthday party. I remember that night vividly. Liam had sat down between Ethan and me, reaching out, as he often used to ruffle my hair. "Sophia, you've lost weight," he'd murmured. But I'd flinched away, turning my head. His hand froze awkwardly in midair, the moment stretching uncomfortably between us. For those 6 months, I tried my best to be a good girlfriend to Alex. Did all the things girlfriends were supposed to do. Except one, I still couldn't make myself actually like him. Turns out, the feeling was mutual. He hadn't truly liked me either. On that, at least, we were even. My head was spinning properly now. As I reached for my glass to refill it for the 3rd time, Liam's hand shot out, stopping me. His fingers closed around my wrist, his palm warm against my skin. I froze, my gaze traveling up his arm to his face. His brow was slightly furrowed. "Don't," he said softly. "You'll have too much." I stared at him for a couple of seconds. "I'm fine," I insisted, then suddenly laughed, snatching my wrist back and taking a defiant gulp from the glass. Barely getting started. I drank stubbornly, head down, but the image flashing in my mind was Liam's face from years ago, eyes hazy with drink, murmuring Ethan's name. It's not the wine that intoxicates, but the drinker themselves. How true. With Liam sitting beside me, I was getting drunk remarkably fast. After downing who knows how many more, I reached for the bottle again. This time, Liam didn't just intercept my hand. He snatched the bottle away, placing it firmly on the table with a thud that was audible even over the music. I looked up at him. He wasn't frowning anymore, but his gaze was intense, complicated, unreadable. "Sophia," he asked, his voice low and tight. "Do you still like him that much?" I blinked, my alcohol-fogged brain struggling to process. Like who? Alex. Hearing Alex's name from him felt strange. Then it clicked. He thought I was drowning my sorrows over the breakup. Part of me wanted to explain, to shout that it wasn't about Alex at all. But the words caught in my throat. Explain what? How? Tell him I was drinking because my hopeless crush on him was still alive and kicking, and sitting next to him knowing I couldn't have him was making me miserable? How could I possibly say that? My mouth opened, then closed. He was, all right, I mumbled finally. Liam held my gaze for a long moment. If he was just all right, then stop drinking. He picked up the nearly empty bottle, poured the last dregs into his own glass, and downed it in one go. He placed the empty bottle pointedly in front of me. All gone. I stared blankly at the bottle for a second. Just as I was about to speak, a sudden wave of nausea churned in my stomach. The urge to gag was overwhelming. "I need the restroom," I choked out, scrambling to my feet. Liam looked concerned, his tone instantly softening. "I'll come with you." He started to rise. "No," I said, louder than intended. "It's right there, around the corner." "Wait here." We were in a slightly secluded booth, and the restrooms were indeed just steps away. Seeing my determined refusal, Liam didn't push it. He leaned back against the table, watching me quietly as I hurried away. Honestly, I just didn't want him to see me throwing up. Sure enough, the moment I stumbled into a stall, I retched. After emptying my stomach, I felt marginally better. I went to the sinks, splashed cold water on my face, rinsed my mouth, and quickly reapplied some lipstick, trying to repair the damage. I didn't want Liam seeing me looking like a wreck. Stepping out of the restroom corridor, however, my eyes immediately fixed on our booth. There was someone standing there, talking to Liam. A woman. A woman with a stunning figure, wearing very little, her long hair cascading down her back. A surge of something sharp, vigilance? Jealousy? Shot through me. I quickened my pace. As I got closer, I saw Liam's face. It was completely impassive. His standard reaction to female attention over the years, a polite but frosty refusal. No exceptions. Just as I reached the table, the woman shifted her position, leaning forward, planting her hands on the table edge, effectively presenting her very prominent, rounded backside towards the room. TSK. That was it. I couldn't watch anymore. I practically sprinted the last few steps, intending to squeeze past her and link my arm possessively through Liam's. But my head was still spinning, my foot caught on something unseen, and my legs buckled. Instead of standing beside him, I stumbled and landed squarely in his lap. A strong arm instantly wrapped around my waist, steadying me. Liam's hand rested there for a split second, tense, before quickly loosening its grip, though it didn't leave entirely. Heat flooded my face. Mortification warred with a strange thrill. Good grief. After years of maintaining a careful distance, here I was, practically draped over him, thanks to a potent combination of alcohol and clumsiness. But the woman was staring, her eyes narrowed. I had to commit. Steeling myself, I leaned back slightly against Liam's chest, tilted my head up, and addressed the woman with forced sweetness. "Excuse me, miss, but my boyfriend was waiting for me." The woman's perfectly made-up face hardened, her displeasure obvious, especially seeing me perched on Liam's lap. I didn't care. If anything, I deliberately snuggled a little closer, looking up at her with what I hoped was a challenging glint in my eyes. Maybe it was the booze, but a fierce, irrational desire to chase this woman away from Liam consumed me. She shot me a venomous look, then incredibly, ignored me completely, turning her attention back to Liam. "Handsome," she purred, gesturing towards me with a dismissive flick of her wrist, her long, red-lacquered nails looking almost sinister in the flashing lights. "And who is this?" Liam was silent for 2 beats. Then, his right hand, which had been hovering uncertainly, settled lightly but possessively on my waist. "My girlfriend," he stated calmly. "Isn't it obvious?" Well, Liam certainly knew how to deliver a rejection when needed. Confirmed by the man himself, the woman had no choice but to accept defeat. Muttering something under her breath, she picked up her drink and stalked away. Luckily, the music dipped just as she turned, and I caught her parting shot, such a handsome guy, wasted on a minor. Minor? I bristled internally. "You're the one acting like a child." As the music swelled again, I tore my gaze away from the woman's retreating figure and remembered, with a jolt, that I was still sitting on Liam's lap. My heart leaped into my throat. I scrambled off him immediately. I'd almost forgotten. Liam had a slight aversion to unnecessary physical contact, a mild germophobia, really. The only exception seemed to be Ethan. The memory of that brief, intense closeness sent another wave of heat through me. My heart was hammering against my ribs. That was probably the closest I'd ever get to Liam in my entire life. Raising my eyes, I stole a cautious glance at him. His expression wasn't exactly pleased. He remained seated, posture unchanged, right hand now gripping a glass, fingers tracing its rim, a faint line creasing his brow. My stomach tightened. I rushed to apologize. "Sorry, Liam, I didn't ask first, I just..." What if he'd actually been interested in that woman? My barging in like that wouldn't have made him happy. "It's fine," Liam murmured, his fingers tightening on the glass. His expression remained coolly neutral. "Thanks for the save." Hearing that, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "No problem," I waved a hand dismissively. An awkward silence fell between us. Thankfully, it was broken just minutes later by the whirlwind arrival of my brother and sister-in-law. Ethan had somehow coaxed Chloe out too. Good grief, they even had matching wind-blown hairstyles. Ethan sported a slicked-back look, while Chloe's bangs were swept dramatically upwards. "Your brother," Chloe complained good-naturedly, smoothing her hair, borrowed a convertible from God knows where and insisted on taking me for a spin. This was the result. Ethan, apparently parched from his joyride, grabbed my untouched drink and downed it in one go. I rolled my eyes, helping Chloe tame her fringe. Seriously? On streets with a 60 km/h speed limit, Ethan managed to give you both aerodynamic hairdos. Chloe didn't answer directly. Instead, her gaze landed on Liam, a knowing smile playing on her lips. "Liam, darling. You didn't bully my little sister while we were gone, did you?" Liam blinked, then shook his head quickly. "No." It was clearly a joke, but Liam seemed unusually flustered, taking a quick sip of his drink right after answering. Strange. Ever since Chloe arrived, Liam seemed off. With the 4 of us there, Ethan, Chloe, and I fell into easy conversation. But Liam was conspicuously quiet. He barely spoke, instead focusing on steadily emptying glass after glass. I watched him silently from the side, a familiar ache blooming in my chest, empathy mixed with my own sorrow. I wasn't the only one suffering from unrequited love, it seemed. The person I yearned for was right here, nursing his own secret heartbreak. Feeling a strange sense of solidarity, I started matching him, drink for drink. And then, I don't know how Liam fared, but for me, the world went black. Through a thick fog, I vaguely felt strong arms lifting me, supporting me as I stumbled forward. I managed to pry my eyes open. Disappointment washed over me. It was just Ethan. Bad enough it wasn't Liam, but Ethan was grumbling as he half-dragged me along. Sophia, damn, you weigh more than Grandma's old sow, and I keep telling you to eat less, you're heavy as lead. His voice, combined with the relentless music, pounded in my head. I cracked my eyes open again and slapped a hand clumsily over his mouth. Ugly, I slurred. Want Liam. A few seconds of stunned silence, then Ethan's indignant roar. Who are you calling ugly? I stared blankly at his indignant face for a moment, then my eyes fluttered closed again. The next time I surfaced, drifting in and out of consciousness, I could have sworn I was dreaming. Liam was carrying me, bridal style, walking along the curb of a busy street. Streetlights blurred past, cars streamed by in streaks of light and sound. This had to be a dream. Alcohol had numbed my reasoning. I just stared up at him, captivated. He was, without a doubt, the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. The simple white shirt looked effortlessly perfect. On him, radiating a clean, almost ethereal quality. From my vantage point, I could see the sharp, elegant line of his jaw, his high-bridged nose, and above them, his clear, steady eyes. Then, in the dream, those eyes shifted downwards, meeting mine unexpectedly. Our gazes locked. Still convinced it was a dream, without a second thought, I looped my arms around his neck and pressed my lips against his. Even in a dream, kissing Liam felt like fulfilling a lifelong wish. Soft, warm, perfect. I clung to him, kissing him clumsily, vaguely aware of his body tensing beneath my touch, growing rigid. And then, darkness swallowed me again. I woke up in a bed wearing unfamiliar pajamas. My mind was a complete blank. I sat bolt upright, heart pounding, scanning my surroundings. Relief washed over me as I recognized the room, the spare bedroom at Ethan and Chloe's apartment. Okay, so I'd blacked out and my brother had taken me in. Sitting on the edge of the bed, I tried to gather my scattered thoughts. The dream, that kiss, floated back into my consciousness. The memory brought a fresh wave of sadness. It seemed kissing Liam was something I could only achieve in my dreams. With a heavy sigh, I got up, folded the blanket neatly, and padded out of the room, hair resembling a bird's nest, needing the bathroom desperately. However, stepping into the hallway, I froze. Someone was sitting on the living room sofa. Liam. He was sitting perfectly composed, still wearing yesterday's white shirt, sleeves neatly rolled up, the top 2 buttons undone. The morning sunlight streamed in, bathing him in a warm glow, creating an image of almost painful serenity. I stared, momentarily stunned. Then he looked up, his gaze meeting mine. I saw his eyes linger for a fraction of a second on my disastrous hair. Suddenly self-aware, I didn't even manage a greeting before I bolted into the nearby bathroom, slamming the door and locking it behind me. Heart hammering, I looked in the mirror. My reflection made my stomach sink. Oh God, who was that frightful creature? Bird's nest hair, dark circles under swollen, bloodshot eyes, my face slightly puffy from the hangover. Utterly hideous. Great, I thought miserably. Now I'm even less worthy of him. How is it fair? We both had hangovers, yet he woke up looking like a pristine, handsome young man, while I looked like a bloated pufferfish that had swallowed 3 gallons of water. Okay, maybe not that bad. But compared to the vision of Liam I'd just seen, my reflection was deeply unsatisfying. Faint cooking sounds drifted from the kitchen. Spotting the frosted glass window connecting the kitchen and bathroom, I quickly slid it open and peered through. Chloe was at the stove, frying eggs. Chloe, I whispered urgently. She turned. I glanced nervously towards the living room, then lowered my voice further. Can I please borrow some of your makeup? I look like a disaster zone. I can't face anyone like this. Chloe agreed readily, but the knowing, amused smile playing on her lips made me squirm. Worried she'd guessed something, I added quickly, defensively, I mean. Liam is Ethan's friend. It wouldn't be right to scare him off looking like this. Before Chloe could reply, footsteps approached. Liam's figure appeared in the kitchen doorway. Chloe, need any help? He stood there, while I was peering out of the bathroom window like a startled groundhog. Our eyes met across the length of the kitchen. Again. Honestly, the awkwardness was suffocating. Me, looking like something the cat dragged in, staring at Liam across the kitchen landscape. Almost instantly, I yanked my head back and slammed the window shut with a bang. I quickly washed my face and brushed my teeth, thank goodness for the stash of disposable toothbrushes Ethan kept. Then, I hastily applied some light makeup, borrowed from Chloe. A glance in the mirror confirmed I looked much better. Dark circles concealed, a touch of blush bringing color back to my pale cheeks. Passable. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and stepped out. My eyes immediately found Liam, standing by the living room window, tall and elegant, a half-smoked cigarette held loosely between his fingers. Hesitantly, I approached. Liam. He turned. The moment he saw me, he quickly stubbed out the cigarette in the nearby ashtray. I paused, looking up at him questioningly. Thought I heard you cough a little this morning, he explained quietly. I hadn't even noticed. He was so observant. Too bad that thoughtfulness isn't meant for me, I thought sourly. Then, cautiously, I asked, last night. I blacked out. I didn't say anything weird, did I? That dream kiss felt disturbingly real, and my drunken behavior wasn't exactly reliable. What if I'd actually done or said something mortifying? Something flickered in his expression. When I mentioned last night, his composure shifted subtly. He glanced at me, then frowned slightly, his lips pressing together, his fingers tightening almost imperceptibly near the ashtray. What does that mean? I wondered, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. Just then, Chloe walked over to the dining table behind us, carrying plates of breakfast. She smiled knowingly. You didn't do much, she announced cheerfully. You just kissed Liam. My jaw dropped. Kissed Liam? So, it wasn't a dream? It actually happened? My head snapped up to look at Liam. He was frowning slightly now, turning his head to gaze pointedly out the window. From my angle, all I could see was his profile. Yep, definitely happened. Chloe chuckled, watching us both, before turning back to the kitchen, closing the door softly behind her. It took me a moment to process. Terrified he'd think I was some kind of drunken predator, I stammered, Liam, please don't misunderstand. I was really drunk last night. I probably thought you were someone else. Liam's shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. He murmured. Then, after a beat, it's fine. 2 short sentences, and the atmosphere plunged into a heavy, suffocating silence that lasted until Chloe brought out the rest of the breakfast. Even with Ethan, the resident life of the party, present, the mood at the table remained subdued and awkward. After breakfast, Liam insisted on washing the dishes, then quickly made his excuses, saying he had things to do, and left. I couldn't stand staying either. Muttering a vague reason, I left almost immediately after him. It was the weekend. I hailed a cab home, staring blankly out the window at the clear blue sky, lost in thought. Even knowing Liam and I were never meant to be, stealing that drunken kiss last night, maybe it was enough. A bittersweet memory to hold on to. But as I turned my head, a familiar sting pricked behind my eyes. Who was I kidding? Just comforting myself. How could it possibly be enough? Not ending up with the person you've loved for years. How could that ever truly be no regrets? A week slipped by. Liam and I had no contact, which, admittedly, wasn't unusual for us. Friday evening, walking home, debating between chicken cutlet rice and braised chicken for dinner, someone suddenly blocked my path at the entrance to my apartment complex. It was Alex. I frowned, annoyance flaring. I tried to step around him, but he moved, blocking me again. He looked rough, dark circles under his eyes. Stubble shadowing his jaw, his usual confidence replaced by a weary desperation. He sighed heavily. Sophia, let's get back together. I instinctively took a step back. I have a boyfriend. Alex moved closer again. I know, he said dismissively. He's just someone you found to make me jealous, right? To push me away? I backed up until my legs hit the row of parked rental bikes behind me. Trapped. I looked up at him squarely. Alex, what makes you think I would go to that much trouble for you? He blinked, then scowled. I don't believe you. He actually reached out, trying to grab my hand. Sophia, I know you're still mad at me, right? I snatched my hand away. Alex, we broke up. Let's just leave it at that. Clean break. I turned and started walking quickly towards the apartment building, but the sound of footsteps followed close behind. Glancing back, I saw Alex doggedly pursuing me. There was no shaking him. Cornered, while he launched into a rambling monologue about how much he regretted cheating and breaking up with me, I pulled out my phone and quickly typed a message to Liam. Liam, Alex is harassing me at my apartment gate. Can you possibly come and play pretend one more time? Liam's reply was almost instantaneous. Wait for me. On my way. I don't know why, but a guy like Liam just radiated reassurance. The moment I saw his message, the knot of anxiety and annoyance in my chest loosened. I felt safe, able to just wait. He was incredibly fast. Barely 10 minutes passed between my SOS message and the arrival of his familiar black SUV pulling up silently by the curb. The door opened, and Liam got out, walking briskly towards me. Seeing him stride purposefully in my direction, the remnants of my frustration evaporated. He hadn't even done anything yet, but just his presence made me feel better. He reached my side. There was a fractional hesitation, then he reached out and slid an arm around my waist. His touch was light, fingertips barely brushing the fabric of my dress, ever the gentleman, but the gesture was undeniably possessive. I immediately linked my arm through his, turning to face Alex. Still don't believe me? Alex's jaw tightened stubbornly. No. He paused, then a cold sneer spread across his face. Sophia, you can say whatever you want today, I won't buy it. I don't believe you could move on this fast. Fine. Maybe you don't want to be with me. But what about that guy you've had a crush on forever? Didn't you tell me you? Alex's words sent a jolt of panic through me. If he kept talking, Liam might figure things out. Acting purely on instinct, desperate to shut him up, I grabbed Liam's arm, stood on my tiptoes, and pulled his head down, pressing my lips against his. I must have been truly desperate. To kiss Liam, completely sober, completely unprovoked beyond sheer panic. So reckless. Thankfully, Liam, despite his supposed aversion to closeness, didn't push me away. His body went rigid for a moment, a sharp intake of breath, but then he just stood there, still, allowing me to press my lips, however inexpertly, against his. After a few seconds, I pulled back, turning to face the stunned, slack-jawed Alex. Believe me now? Alex's face was a mask of ugly disbelief and anger. He scanned both of us, his gaze lingering on Liam with resentment. Fine, Sophia, he spat out. You win. With that, he turned on his heel and stormed off. Knowing him, that was likely the last I'd see of him. However, with Alex gone, a new wave of anxiety washed over me. I couldn't bring myself to look up at Liam. My brain felt scrambled. The kiss had been pure, panicked improvisation. How on earth was I going to explain this? Suddenly, a warm touch on my lips. Liam's thumb gently brushed across my lower lip, wiping away. Probably a smudge of lipstick. His voice was very low. You didn't have to do that, Sophia. If he bothered you again, I would have dealt with him. You don't need to go that far. That far? Did he mean the kiss? I kept my head down, mumbling an apology. Sorry, Liam. I just panicked, I wasn't thinking. It's fine, he repeated. Those same two words. His expression was unreadable, but his gaze, when it rested on me, seemed as gentle as ever. Haven't eaten yet, right? I nodded, still feeling flustered, unable to say much. Liam naturally took the tote bag I was carrying. There's a new hot pot place that opened up down the street from your complex. Supposed to be good. Interested? Really? I didn't even know. It was just an automatic reply, something to fill the silence, but Liam seemed to pause at my words. Went there with some friends a few days ago, he said quietly. Oh! I nodded again. Okay, sure. Hot pot sounds good. And just like that, Liam took me to the hot pot place. He wasn't kidding, it was fantastic. Everything from the fragrant broth to the fresh ingredients was top-notch. But my mind wasn't on the food. My gaze kept drifting across the table, drawn to Liam through the rising steam. It felt strangely intimate, sharing a meal like this. Just the two of us. It was probably the first time we'd ever eaten hot pot together. Looking at him, a familiar, impossible thought surfaced. What if he were mine? Maybe it was the cozy atmosphere, or maybe those two unexpected, chaotic kisses had emboldened me. Looking at Liam across the bubbling pot, the urge to finally confess, to lay my heart bare, swelled within me. But throughout the meal, despite numerous internal pep talks, the words remained lodged in my throat. I filled the silence with meaningless chatter, circling the real topic like a nervous bird, never daring to land. Finally, the meal ended. Liam raised his hand to signal the waiter for the bill. I quickly pulled up my payment QR code and held it out. Before the waiter could scan it, Liam intercepted, smoothly presenting his own phone. As the payment went through, he glanced up at me, a faint smile touching his lips. Come on, Sophia. Can't let the lady pay when we're eating together. Bill settled, he picked up my bag again. Ready? I'll walk you home. I nodded, following him out of the restaurant. We hadn't taken more than a few steps when Liam's phone rang. It was Ethan. Apparently, he and Chloe had fought again. Ethan had stormed out in a huff and was now sulking over drinks at a bar, demanding Liam join him immediately. Liam glanced at me, then answered Ethan with a simple, okay. He hung up. Let me walk you home first. However, I knew my brother's pattern. Fights with Chloe led to binge drinking, which often led to trouble. It's okay, I said. I'll come with you. Someone needs to keep an eye on Ethan. The bar was loud and crowded. Sure enough, when we found Ethan, several empty bottles already littered his table. Liam slid into the booth opposite him, opened a fresh beer, and clinked it against Ethan's. What was it this time? He asked calmly. That question opened the floodgates. Ethan, already slurring his words, launched into a long, rambling tirade about Chloe's perceived injustices. Liam listened patiently, nodding occasionally, finally offering a quiet piece of advice. She's a good woman, Ethan. Don't mess it up. Cherish her. Was it my imagination, or did Liam's voice hold a distinct trace of wistfulness, maybe even envy? I sat beside Liam, chin propped on my hand, watching them both, saying nothing. Honestly, I wasn't too worried about Ethan and Chloe's fights. They were practically routine, small squabbles every few days, a major blow-up every week or two. Sometimes, if things were quiet for too long, Ethan seemed to manufacture drama just to have an excuse to storm out and drink. Everyone around them was used to it. Only Liam still patiently offered counsel. This was the second time Liam and I had been to a bar together. I realized I quite liked watching him under these flashing, colorful lights. His features were strong enough to handle the chaotic lighting. It just gave him a different kind of captivating allure. I was lost in observation when someone stopped abruptly at our table. I looked up. A middle-aged man, face flushed, eyes slightly unfocused. I assumed he was a friend of Ethan's or Liam's and glanced at them, but they both looked equally perplexed. The man leaned towards me, his breath thick with the smell of alcohol. Hey there, pretty thing, he slurred. You single? Let me get your WeChat. He spoke haltingly, clearly drunk. My first instinct was to look at Liam. My heart sank. Not only did Liam not react, he didn't even glance at the man. He just sat there, expression unchanged, calmly pouring himself another drink. The flicker of hope I'd been nursing died a swift death. I turned back to the drunk, my voice cold. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. The man raised his eyebrows, his gaze sweeping dismissively over Liam and Ethan. So, having a boyfriend doesn't mean we can't be friends, right? Just add me. What's the big deal? Before I could respond, Ethan bristled. Get lost, he snapped, starting to push himself up from the booth. But in the exact same instant Ethan moved, Liam slammed his glass down and stood up alongside him. The drunk man was tall, probably around 6 feet, and solidly built. Fueled by alcohol, he wasn't intimidated. He started trading insults with them. Things escalated quickly. The drunk made a move towards Ethan, fists clenched. Before Ethan could even react, Liam stepped directly in front of him, grabbed an empty beer bottle from the table, and brought it down swiftly on the man's head. There was a sickening crack. A line of blood instantly trickled down the man's temple. The bar erupted into chaos. We all ended up at the police station. Fortunately, the drunk's injury wasn't serious, just needed a few stitches. He also didn't seem short on cash and ultimately agreed to settle things privately. Liam paid a sum of money, and we were released without anyone being formally charged or detained. Outside the station, Ethan tried to give Liam the money back, but Liam waved him off. Despite the recent unpleasantness, Liam's composure was unruffled. Keep your pocket money, Ethan, he said coolly. I'm fine. I stood silently to the side, watching the exchange, saying nothing. What was there to say? When I was being harassed, Liam hadn't batted an eyelid. The moment Ethan was potentially threatened, Liam leaped into action, ready for violence. The difference was stark. Painfully clear. I found myself grimly thankful that I hadn't managed to confess my feelings over hot pot earlier. It would have been nothing but humiliating. The next day, predictably, Ethan and Chloe had made up. Chloe called and invited me out for lunch. I wasn't really in the mood, but I didn't want to be rude, so I agreed. When I arrived at the restaurant, I found Liam was already there with them. As I walked into the private room, Chloe was in the middle of transferring money to Liam's phone. Even best friends need to keep accounts straight, Liam, she was saying firmly. This was Ethan's mess yesterday. You shouldn't be paying for it. Under Chloe's gentle insistence, Liam finally accepted the transfer. Seeing me enter, Chloe waved me over enthusiastically. Sophia, come sit. They have your favorite Sichuan pepper chicken here. She then promptly shooed Ethan over, patting the seat next to her, which was also directly beside Liam. It turned out that mood really did affect appetite. Even with my absolute favorite dish placed right in front of me, courtesy of Chloe rotating the Lazy Susan, I had zero desire to eat. Ethan, meanwhile, was digging in enthusiastically. Noticing my listless state, he mumbled around a mouthful of food. You know, Sophia, you're not getting any younger. Time you started seriously dating. My hand, holding my chopsticks, froze midair. I managed noncommittally, hoping to brush off the topic. But Ethan seemed fixated. Hey, how about I introduce you to someone? What do you think? Almost involuntarily, my eyes flickered sideways, stealing a glance at Liam. Still nothing. Not a flicker of reaction. If he had even the slightest interest in me, surely this would provoke some response? His utter stillness, combined with the memory of his indifference at the bar yesterday, created a painful cocktail of disappointment and defiance within me. Keeping my eyes lowered, I replied flatly, okay, sure. You can pick someone for me. Ethan agreed readily. But Chloe, sitting beside me, watched me with a knowing, slightly amused expression. Why wait? She chimed in brightly. Seize the day. Sophia, how about I introduce you to someone right now? I have a former classmate, Leo. He's a great guy, really good condition, and honestly, you're totally his type. Should I ask him to come over? You two could meet. I froze. This was moving way too fast. Maybe another time? I stammered, trying to find an excuse. Calling him over now seems like too much trouble. Nonsense, no trouble at all. Chloe beamed, already tapping away on her phone. He happens to be nearby anyway. I'll just message him. The situation had escalated beyond my control. I'd already agreed to Ethan's suggestion. Saying no now would be awkward. Trapped, I fell silent, taking refuge in sipping my lemon water. My gaze, despite my best efforts, kept drifting towards Liam. He remained utterly silent, pouring himself another glass of wine. The classmate, Leo, arrived remarkably quickly. Barely 15 minutes after Chloe sent the message, the door to our private room opened. The moment the door opened, Liam's head snapped up, his gaze fixed on the entrance. I followed his line of sight. The guy who entered wore a simple white t-shirt, looked a bit younger than Liam, and was clean-cut and presentable. Not drop-dead gorgeous, but pleasant-looking with neat features. Chloe was actually a few years younger than Liam, closer to my age, so it made sense her classmate would be younger too. Leo walked over quickly, greeted everyone politely, and then, at Chloe's pointed suggestion, slid into the seat she vacated, the one on my other side. Perfect. Now I was sandwiched between Liam on my left and this potential blind date on my right. Leo seemed like a genuinely nice guy, always smiling, speaking gently and considerately. He was incredibly attentive, putting food onto my plate, refilling my water glass. When Chloe suggested, "Everyone have a drink," Leo smoothly intercepted, pouring himself 2 glasses instead. "Let me drink for her," he said with a warm smile. "It's not good for girls to drink too much." Chloe and Ethan exchanged a look, then Chloe smiled brightly, glancing between Leo and me, and then, strangely, seemed to flick her eyes towards Liam for a split second. "All right," she said approvingly. "See how considerate our Leo is? That's the kind of thoughtful guy girls appreciate." Leo just smiled modestly. Liam said nothing. That day, everyone drank except me. And Liam drank the most. I had never seen him drink like that before. Glass after glass, relentlessly, his brow slightly furrowed, as if weighed down by unspoken thoughts. He didn't utter a single word throughout the entire exchange with Leo, just kept drinking with silent intensity. More than once, I felt the urge to ask him what was wrong, but I held back. What right did I have? As his friend's sister? The unasked questions, the unspoken concern, remained trapped inside me, swallowed down with sips of lemon water. By the time the meal finally ended, Liam was undeniably drunk. Drunker, even, than I remembered him being that fateful night years ago. Ethan paid the bill. As everyone else got ready to leave, Liam remained seated, bolt upright in his chair, motionless. I couldn't help myself. I walked over to him, bending down slightly. Liam, I asked softly, are you okay? Fine, he mumbled, shaking his head slightly. You guys go ahead. I'll just sit here for a bit. Leave him here alone like this? No way. He was clearly wasted. He'd consumed an astonishing amount of alcohol today, more than I could even keep track of. My resolve softened. Looking up at Ethan and Chloe, I said, you guys go on ahead. I'll take Liam home. Ethan started to say something, but Chloe subtly tugged his arm. Okay, sweetie, she replied instantly, overriding him. We'll head off then. And with that, she efficiently steered both Ethan and Leo out of the room. The door closed, leaving just Liam and me in the quiet room. I pulled up a chair beside him and poured him a glass of warm water from the carafe. Drink some water, I urged gently. It'll make you feel better. My words were cut off as his hand shot out, gripping my wrist tightly. I jumped, startled. Liam seemed to snap back to himself for a moment, instantly releasing my hand. He took the glass, his fingers slowly curling around it. Sorry, he mumbled. I shook my head. Just drink some water, I repeated softly. Liam took a small sip. Then, his voice low and slightly slurred, he asked, what did you think of him? Huh? I blinked, momentarily confused. Who? He looked up at me, his expression surprisingly patient despite the alcohol. Leo, what did you think of him? Unsure of where he was going with this, I answered honestly. He seems nice. Gentle, considerate. Probably the type a lot of girls would like. His gaze intensified. And, are you one of those girls? I froze. What? Looking up, my eyes met his. I'd never seen this expression on his face before. It was a raw mix of vulnerability, tenderness, and hesitant, almost fearful cautiousness. He was definitely drunk, brow furrowed, eyes fixed intently on mine. When I didn't answer, he prompted softly, tell me, Sophia. Please? I couldn't speak. Logically, I should nod, say yes, finally extinguish this hopeless flame, stop torturing myself with fantasies. But looking into those eyes, seeing that unguarded vulnerability, I couldn't lie. Not to him. Not like this. I held his gaze for a long moment, tracing the lines of his face with my eyes, memorizing the way the light caught the slight flush on his cheeks. Finally, slowly, I lowered my gaze. Following my heart, I shook my head. No, I answered truthfully, my voice barely a whisper. He's not my type. A beat of silence, then Liam let out a shaky breath, a slow, relieved smile spreading across his face. So, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, that means, I still have a chance, right? My mind went completely blank. What? The words came out automatically. I understood each word he'd said individually, but strung together, the meaning seemed impossible, nonsensical. Or rather, I understood, but I couldn't dare to believe it. Liam watched me, his eyes crinkling slightly at the corners as he smiled, a constellation of hope glittering in their depths. I said, he repeated softly, if you don't like him, does that mean I still have a chance? My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. I grasped fragments of meaning, but the implication was too staggering. Liam. I breathed, still staring at him in disbelief. He sighed, a soft, weary sound. Then he lifted his hand, gently tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers brushed my skin, sending sparks down my spine. Stop calling me brother, Sophia, he murmured, his voice husky. It's because I'm older. That's why I've been so damn careful, waiting all these years, too afraid to take the step. My heart hammered against my ribs, a wild, frantic rhythm. Liam looked at me, his expression earnest, almost reverent. Sophia, tell me what kind of guy you really like. I'll try to change. I'll be whatever you want. Okay. He let out another low sigh. I can't bear hiding it anymore. It took me a long moment to fully absorb his words, the weight of their meaning settling over me. My pulse roared in my ears. Fighting the urge to tremble, I managed to whisper, your type, Liam. Liam seemed stunned into silence. What? I met his gaze directly, my voice gaining a little strength. I said, I like your type, Liam. Seeing the dawning comprehension, the mixture of shock and burgeoning joy in his eyes, I gathered my courage and added, the words tumbling out in a rush, I've liked you for years. So many years. In that instant, locking eyes with him, it felt like I was truly seeing him for the first time. Seeing past the cool reserve, the friendly distance. Seeing the layers of emotion he'd kept hidden, affection, restraint, hesitation, constant calculation. The man I had loved in silence for so long, apparently, he felt the same way about me. The realization hit me with the force of winning the lottery jackpot, leaving me breathless with shock and overwhelming happiness. And mirrored in Liam's eyes, I saw that same astonished joy reflected back at me. I expected him to say more, but he didn't. Instead, his hands came up, gently cupping my face. He leaned in slowly, deliberately, and his lips met mine. I discovered then that a kiss could make you tremble uncontrollably. My body went rigid for a second, still leaning forward slightly, then seemed to melt, softening into his embrace. This wasn't our first kiss, not technically, but it was the first real one. The first time it happened with mutual consent, mutual longing, mutual feeling. His lips were soft, moving against mine with a tentative exploration that quickly deepened. His breath tasted faintly of lemon, his signature scent. I knew his toothpaste, mouthwash, even his breath mints were all lemon-flavored. Well, I thought hazily, lemon is officially my new favorite flavor too. The kiss went on for a long time. Long enough that my lungs began to burn, starved for air. Finally, just as I felt I might pass out, Liam gently pulled back, releasing my face. He just looked at me, his eyes dark and intense. After a long moment, he let out a soft sigh, reached up, and ruffled my hair, his palm warm against my scalp. I've waited a long time for this day, Sophia. Haven't we both? Logically, shifting from years of friendship, well, friend-sistership, to lovers should have felt awkward, jarring. But it didn't. It felt incredibly natural. So natural, it surprised me. Sitting beside him now, I propped my chin on my hand, looking at him. Remembering the bar incident, a playful pout formed on my lips. Liam O'Connell, I complained, you say you like me, but when that drunk guy was hitting on me at the bar the other night, you didn't do a thing. Didn't even look up. The memory still stung. I picked up his abandoned water glass for emphasis. But the second Ethan stood up, you were right there beside him, ready to fight. Liam looked genuinely taken aback. You thought I was protecting Ethan? Weren't you? He was silent for a couple of seconds, then a slow smile spread across his face. He shifted his chair closer, taking the water glass from my hand, finishing the last sip himself, before gently taking my hand in his. His hand was large, easily enveloping mine, warm and reassuring. A soft sigh escaped him. Sophia, he said quietly, shaking his head slightly. When some random guy is hitting on the girl you like. Trust me, I wanted to kill him. He paused, his thumb stroking gently across my knuckles. But Ethan was right there. As just his friend, I didn't feel like I had the right to step in. Do you understand? Hearing him refer to himself as an outsider made me frown instinctively. Then why did you get involved in my business in the end? I asked, deliberately emphasizing the words my business. Liam chuckled softly. It's not appropriate for me to interfere in my friend's sister's affairs, he explained patiently. But helping out a friend in a fight? That's perfectly acceptable. It just happened to be a convenient excuse to vent some of my own frustration. He squeezed my hand gently. After all, watching someone harass the girl you like, feeling furious but unable to act. It builds up. Listening to him, the last vestiges of my resentment dissolved completely. No wonder he'd been so quick to use that bottle on the guy after just a few insults. He'd been jealous. The realization sent a warm, satisfying thrill through me. Okay, I said, feeling bolder now. Then explain the whole Ethan thing. I brought up the ghosts that had haunted me for years, the drunken confession of love for Ethan, the Stitch figure ending up on Ethan's bag. When I finished, Liam looked utterly bewildered. What, Ethan thing? He seemed genuinely clueless, but those memories were crystal clear in my mind. I held onto his hand, recounting each incident, piece by painful piece. When I was done, Liam stared at me, his expression shifting from confusion to dawning horror, then finally settling into profound awkwardness. So, he said slowly, processing it all. All this time, you thought I was in love with your brother? I nodded mutely. Of course. I hadn't just thought it, I'd been convinced of it. Liam took a deep breath, then patiently, painstakingly, explained everything. The drunken confession? He hadn't been completely blacked out, just tipsy enough to feel reckless. When asked if he'd ever fallen for someone, emboldened by alcohol and a desire to test the waters, he'd actually mumbled my name, Sophia Cheng Shen. But apparently, in his slightly slurred state, everyone had misheard it as Ethan Cheng Yuan. He vehemently denied being that drunk or slurring that badly, insisting it was just the similar sounds, but I had my doubts. As for the limited edition Stitch figure, Liam looked genuinely shocked. Ethan never gave it back to you? Ethan? Give it back? I shook my head, confused. Liam sighed again, running a hand through his hair. Sophia, I knew how much you loved that figure. When you gave it to me, I wanted to get you an identical one as a thank you gift, but it really was limited edition. I spent all night searching. The city couldn't find another one anywhere. So, after thinking about it, I realized the best thing was to give it back to you. He paused, looking slightly embarrassed. But I was worried you'd misunderstand if I gave it back directly. Thought you might think I didn't like the gift. So I gave it to Ethan. I specifically told him, repeatedly, to give it back to you and explain for me. My jaw dropped. Ethan hadn't just failed to explain, he'd never even mentioned it. Knowing my brother, that Stitch figure was probably long lost in the abyss of his messy room or backpack. With all the misunderstandings finally cleared, the truth hanging palpably between us, Liam and I looked at each other and sighed almost in unison. All those years, just spinning our wheels, wasting precious time. I squeezed Liam's hand. Come on, I said softly. It's a nice evening. Let's go for a walk. Liam smiled. Just a second. I turned back, questioning. What else? My words were cut off as his lips met mine again, a quick, sweet, stolen kiss. He ruffled my hair affectionately. Okay, he grinned. Now we can go. Honestly. Hand in hand, Liam and I walked out of the private room. Pushing the door open, we stepped into the corridor and stopped dead. Standing there, waiting, were Ethan, Chloe, and Leo. I jumped, startled. Weren't you guys supposed to have left? Ethan stared, mouth agape, his eyes wide as saucers, fixated on our joined hands. Chloe kept insisting you two would definitely get together, he stammered, scratching his head in confusion. I told her, no way, how could that possibly? Holy crap. His brain finally caught up with his eyes. The last part came out as an exclamation of pure shock. He stared at us for another second, then turned to Chloe, utterly bewildered. This. Chloe rolled her eyes affectionately at her clueless husband. You idiot. One is your best friend, the other is your sister. They've both been obviously crushing on each other for ages. Only a blockhead like you wouldn't see it. For once, Ethan didn't argue. His gaze bounced between Liam and me, processing. Finally, he asked Liam a question so unexpected it made us both blink. Okay, Liam. Be honest. Did you start liking my sister because you were already my friend, or were you just hanging around me from the start because you had impure intentions towards her? Okay, the question was out of left field, but I was kind of curious too. Liam didn't answer immediately. He hesitated for a moment, and then a faint flush crept up his neck, visible even in the dim hallway light. He was blushing. Sure enough, after a few seconds, Liam admitted quietly, the second one. Ethan looked utterly betrayed, clutching his chest dramatically. I treated you like a brother, he wailed theatrically, and all along, you were just trying to get with my sister. Amidst the laughter and teasing, my gaze fell on Leo, standing quietly beside Chloe. I nodded towards him apologetically. Leo, I'm really sorry about. Don't worry about it, Leo interrupted quickly, waving a dismissive hand. Honestly? Chloe just recruited me as a tool to help add fuel to your romantic fire. A tool? I looked at Chloe. My sister-in-law, barely older than me, was beaming at Liam and me with the unmistakable expression of a proud, successful matchmaker. Seeing me look, she winked. See, she said smugly. Now neither of you has to drink your sorrows away alone, right? My face flushed. I couldn't think of a reply. Ethan, however, nudged Chloe playfully. Hey, why didn't you tell me sooner? You made my buddy suffer through all that jealous drinking today. Chloe raised an eyebrow. Do you even know your own friend? If he hadn't reached peak frustration level, do you really think Mr. Reserved here would have ever confessed? She had a point. Liam was, after all, a textbook example of a stoic, inwardly turbulent Capricorn. And just like that, Liam and I were together. There was no grand, dramatic confession, no fireworks display. But I would never, ever forget the image of him, eyes slightly hazy with drink, brow furrowed with vulnerability, asking softly, "So, does that mean I still have a chance?" When I'd agreed to try with Alex, I'd spent 6 months diligently playing the part of a girlfriend. I bought him gifts, split bills meticulously, sometimes even paid for everything myself. But I could never bridge the final gap, could never truly let him close, physically or emotionally. With Liam, it was completely different. Effortless. I didn't resist his closeness, I craved it. I wanted to be near him constantly, found myself wanting spontaneous hugs, needing to hold his hand, stealing kisses whenever I could. Thankfully, Liam didn't resist either. In fact, he seemed to enjoy it just as much. Now, whenever I mess up, all it takes is wrapping my arms around his, looking up at him pleadingly and murmuring, "Liam." He melts instantly. His hand will find my hair, messing it up gently, and he'll let out that fond, exasperated sigh. "Honestly, Sophia," he'll murmur, "what am I going to do with you?" And I have to admit, those words, "what am I going to do with you?" have become my favorite declaration of love. It wasn't about striving for some perfect balance of power, not about keeping score of who loved who more. It was about indulgence, acceptance, about an affection so deep it bloomed into a small, perfect flower in the moments of fond helplessness. I fell in love with my brother's friend. And by some miracle, he happened to love me too. It felt incredibly good.